Yo, what is going on, guys? All right, so what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be going over Itzel's reverse diet. So on the right-hand side, you can see a lot of the notes. We're going to have weights. We're going to see the adjustments that we're making. I've had a lot of people kind of, reach out and ask me, like, what is a reverse diet? So instead of like trying to break it down, every single time, what I want to do is I want to have this resource for you guys to be able to look back at and be able to see how we're tackling her reverse. What are the things that we're taking into consideration? What are the adjustments we're making? Why are we making these adjustments? That way, you guys understand how to be able to tackle your own reverse, right? So the first thing I do want to say is a reverse is not magic. So, there's going to be a lot of coaches on the internet. They're going to, show off the reverse diets. I'm going to be very transparent here. Some clients get amazing results off of these. Some clients don't really get a lot of physical results. That's okay, right? So a reverse diet isn't meant for a crazy physique transformation. If we get it, beautiful. If we don't get it, that's okay too. A big thing that we're doing with the reverse diet is we are trying to set ourselves up for the next phase, or we're just coming out of a fat loss phase. So there's a variety of ways that we can tackle reverse diet. So for example, with Itzel, we weren't very aggressive off the rip. For me, I came out of a 6-month dieting phase. So I ended at 1800. Immediately, I bumped myself up 400 calories, right? So I went from 1800 to 2200 calories. The reason why I was able to do that is because my maintenance is a lot higher. My maintenance right now, with my weight, amount of muscle mass, I'm probably sitting at around 3000 to about like 3200 for my maintenance. So going up those 400 calories really isn't going to do anything, right? With her, we did a little bit more gradual bumps. I'm going to break that down step by step and show you guys what's going on there. But again, guys, it's not magic. At the end of the day, what a reverse is, utilized for is we're trying to strategically bring up calories while we minimize body fat gain, right? So when you're bringing calories up, the biggest thing that you want to make sure you're not doing is adding a ton of body fat. So, again, me coming out of my fat loss phase because I was dieting for so long, I was on minimal amount of calories for my intake. I'm more susceptible to put on body fat, not even put on body fat, build more fat cells, right? So we want to avoid building more fat cells, because if we're coming out of a fat loss phase and we just bump up calories very, very aggressively, we end up just kind of overdoing it. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to put on a ton of body fat. And again, we're able to build more fat cells. And the thing that sucks about fat cells is you cannot destroy them. So once they are built, they're there, right? As you start dropping body fat, what ends up happening is they shrink, right? So think of a balloon, right? When we're gaining body fat, the cells are going to get bigger, right? As we are dropping body fat, these are slowly going to start shrinking until they get really, really small, right? They never disappear. They're still there. They just shrunk. So we want to avoid building new fat cells, because in the future, this can cause an issue and it could make it really hard for us to get pretty lean, because again, we have more fat cells. So we want to avoid that shit at all costs, right? So breaking down, Itzel's kind of, program, what we're doing with her. She is about 8 weeks away from her fat loss phase. A big thing with the reverse, like how long are they? It really depends. It depends on the adherence of the client. If the client is being very, very adherent, most times they're going to be shorter. If the client is less adherent, guess what? They're probably going to be in there for a while, right? So you want to make sure that you are taking your time and being really, really adherent with this, because again, this is going to set you up for the next phase, right? So want to show you her progress real quick. So this was when she started. This is the back photo. This is where she's at now. You can tell, ton of muscle, dropped a lot of body fat. Let's see if this doesn't glitch out on me. Sometimes it does. So this is her now, and then this is where she started. So we can see that most of her body fat is coming from the back, which is really good. I mean, as long as we're losing body fat, we're going to be in a really good place. So this is start photo, side, and then this is where she's at now. So we can tell body composition is absolutely different. Weight-wise, she dropped 158, and right now she's sitting about 141. Lowest she hit was about 140, which right now we're really sitting about her maintenance, right? So this is why weight is starting to just kind of even out, right? So we've hit a point in her calories where now she's pretty much at a maintenance. We're going to push one more time. We're going to let her sit there, and then we're going to go into her fat loss phase. So with that being said, where was she at when she started? So When she came into the program, on average, she was at about 1,200 to 1,400 calories. So if we go back to the beginning of the program, again, we can see there was fluctuations, 18, 16, 15, then she had 13, 17, 12, 16, 11, 17, and then, again, 1,000, right? So the big thing that we always want to do whenever a client comes in, the first week we collect data. So what we're doing here is we want to get their dietary patterns. How much are they eating, right? What does that food look like? Is it coming from whole foods? Is it very, calorie dense food that doesn't have a lot of vitamins and minerals? They're not really getting a lot of fiber. We pay attention to that stuff, and we want to meet the client where they're at. We don't want to just skyrocket their calories, because I knew her maintenance was about 2,000 calories, but I'm not going to go from 1,200 to 1,400, 1,200, 1,200, 1,400 up to 2,000 or 2,200 calories. I'm not going to do that to her. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because, one, it's going to make adherence really hard, because now she's eating way more food than she's ever had. She's going to be full. She's going to be bloated. She's probably going to see the weight spike significantly within the first few weeks. And be like, I fucking hate this shit, Jose. I don't want to do it, right? So it's really, really important to meet yourself where you're at. So for her, what we started off here, right, since 1,400 was kind of on the higher end, I wanted to bump her up a good amount, right? So we put her at 1,700 calories for the first week, 118 grams of protein to 138. So the target is 128. A big thing with this, I always tell people, when you're tracking carbs, when you're tracking protein, and you're tracking fats, carbs and protein can be a 10-gram range. So 10 grams over, 10 grams under. This helps take away a little bit of that kind of stress of having to be perfect, because you don't have to be perfect, right? So 10 grams over, 10 grams under. Fats, usually about 5 grams, because fats are way higher calories than, carbs and protein, because carbs and protein, we're looking at, 4 calories per gram. Fats, we're looking at 9 calories per gram. So again, over double. So we definitely want to watch out for that, right? So week 1, we implemented, and we can see her adherence was top tier, which, again, this is why her results don't surprise me, right? Immediately, she started hitting calories, right? 1,700, low day right here at 1,400, 1,600, damn near, pretty close to 1,700 there. Again, hitting her markers pretty damn close to it. So you can see it's a little bit off, but again, like, we've adjusted her calories, so that's why it doesn't show that she's hitting them dead on right here. But we set that up. We let that go. So again, week 1, we set those targets. Week 2, we made no adjustments. She dropped about 2 pounds. Week 3, no adjustments. She dropped another pound. Week 4, up a little bit. Again, no adjustments, right? So notice how she went from 149 to 151. We still made no adjustments, right? The reason why I didn't make an adjustment is because I'm always giving time. I'm always giving them time. If we're trying to adjust every single week, we don't know what's working, right? You're changing things too fast. I always say take about 4 weeks to 6 weeks with the new set targets or the new adjustments before you make any more changes, because you want to give your body time to adapt to what we're doing, right? And again, right, no changes on week 4. We come into week 5, she dropped 4 pounds, right? So again, it's working. There's no reason for us to really change stuff, right? Week 5, she came in. We're like, beautiful. Well, look, you're dropping weight pretty quick. Body composition is getting better. I'm going to increase your calories, right? So from here, we went to 1850, 150 calorie increase, and then we brought her protein up 12 grams. Now the target was 140, right? Now I'm not touching any more protein for her, for her physique, for her body. We don't really need to touch that anymore. She weighs about 140 pounds. She's probably about 120 pounds of lean tissue. We don't need to touch that, right? She's already over what she needs to be intaking with protein. Once you have enough protein, you don't need to add more. You're totally golden just keeping it there and then allowing it to do its thing, especially because we're increasing calories. If we're increasing calories, she's going to have more carbs and fats. We're going to use fats for, vitamin absorption or vitamin metabolism, the ones that are fat soluble. We're going to have carbohydrates for energy. And then they're going to allow us to use protein for what it's needed, right? Because carbohydrates are protein sparing. Again, she's about like 1.1 to 1.2 grams of protein per lean tissue, because again, she's about, 120 pounds of lean tissue. So she's in a good place right now. There's no need to add any more protein. So from there, again, we made that adjustment at week 6. Week 7, we saw weight come up slightly, no big issue there. Week 8, again, weight came up to 147.6. Still made no adjustments, right? A big thing here, we don't freak out about the weight. A weight is a measurement that we use, but at the end of the day, we're going to see spikes and we're going to see drops. Just because I see her weight spike doesn't mean I'm going to go in there, I'm going to adjust her calories. I'm going to give it more time, right? Because we've seen it happen already. We've seen her weight spike. We've seen her come back and just drop a significant amount of weight, which is kind of what we're seeing consistently here, right? 147.6 and then 143.4, right? With that, we go on to week 10. So right here, we didn't increase calories whatsoever. What we did is we fixed macro distribution. So since she was being super adherent to calories, super adherent to protein, I knew that she would absolutely nail down full macros, right? And again, the way we tackle this stuff is skill-based. So if someone can track calories and protein consistently, they shouldn't even be on full macros. She showed me that she can hit calories and protein consistently. So now we're going to distribute her macros in a little bit better fashion. This will make a difference. It isn't crazy, but it does make a difference because if we are shuttling more calories to carbohydrates, now she has more carbs for performance and she has more carbs for recovery. And I will say I'm a little bit more biased towards higher carb diets because once you have an adequate amount of fats, doesn't really do shit. Higher protein doesn't really do shit either. You have more than you need, right? So I always like going towards carbs and increasing that. Sometimes people don't respond well to them. If they don't, cool, we'll do a higher fat diet. That's totally fine with me. But most times I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see how the client likes it. I'm going to see how their body responds, and then we'll go from there, right? So again, week 10, we didn't make any increases. We just went straight into full macros, and we let this ride for a little bit more. Week 11, 146.2. Week 12, 140.2. Week 13, 142.2. Week 14, 141.2, right? So now weight started to really regulate. So right here, this is a really good place, right? So we bumped up calories to 2051, protein still at 140, carbs went up, 25 grams, and then fats went up 11 grams. With females, I like to have a little bit more higher fats because again, their hormone regulation is a little bit different than males. So I will tend to have a little bit more fats on females than I will for males. For a male in this intake, I'd probably still keep them around the mid 40s or low 50s. And then I wouldn't really go above that too much until calories start increasing above what we have right here, right? After that, week 15, no changes. We're chilling. So right now we're waiting another 2 weeks. After these 2 weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump her up to 2350. I'm going to let her sit there for about 4 to 6 weeks, and we're going to go straight into a fat loss phase. When I adjust this, again, most of it is going to go to carbohydrates, 314 grams of carbs with that next bump, and 60 grams of fat with that next bump. So we're bringing carbs up significantly, a good 64 grams, and then we're bringing 5 grams of fat up, right? So with that being said, right, how am I making these adjustments? What's the calorie increase that I'm doing, right? So, with the beginning, I did 150 calorie bumps. Just want to see how our body was responding to that. We can tell that her body responds really well to having more food. So on that last final bump, I'm doing a 300 calorie bump. With it, I always give myself a range from anywhere from 150 to 300 calories. From there, I choose from 150 to 300 calories depending on how the body's responding, and then I'll give them more food. If the person's dropping weight very, very quickly and I'm like, cool, everything's going well, then I'll do 300 calorie bumps. For her, she was responding well, but I'd rather take it a little bit slow, 150, 300, right? So we brought up calories significantly, and again, body composition improved drastically. The biggest thing here, guys, is again, you need to be strategic. You don't want to just add on emotion or little things that you're seeing, because again, if every time her weight spike and I adjusted something, it would have thrown us off, right? So we want to take time with this. You want to allow the body to do its thing as you do these increases. Just see how you're responding. And then if you see you're responding well, just keep increasing food every 4 to 6 weeks. Eventually, you're going to get to a place where your weight starts just kind of leveling out. Once you see the weight level out and you're not seeing it increase or drop significantly, that lets you know that right there is your maintenance. So what you could do there is you can increase slightly above that maintenance for a little bit before going into your fat loss phase, just so again, what we're doing is improving our metabolism, right? The big thing here, right? Why does she even see amazing results? So most times you correlate fat loss with eating less food, right? And this is one of the biggest things that, I want you guys to take away from this as a whole, right? Eating less food isn't always going to do it for you, right? And the reason why I say that is because when you eat less food, what ends up happening here is your energy expenditure is going to come down. When you're dieting for a long time, you inherently become a little bit lazier. You don't want to do the dishes. You don't want to walk. You stop fidgeting. You stop moving. You stop doing these little things that you would do on a daily basis. So for her, she wasn't feeling her best. Her energy wasn't high. So us bringing more food in allowed her to feel a lot better on a day-to-day basis. It allowed her to perform better in the gym. It allowed her to just move more, which again, energy expenditure now came up. She's building more muscle because her body now has the resources to do so. And that's really what a reverse diet is, right? So again, guys, a reverse diet is not magic. What we're doing here is we're just bringing calories up slightly throughout this process, doing it in a strategic manner so we can minimize body fat loss, we can maximize muscle gain, and we can just set ourselves up for that next phase. The first reverse anybody goes through, coming into the program, I tell them this is the foundation. This is where you're setting the habits and behaviors, right? Can we track macros, adherently? Can we make sure that, our calories are always on point? Can we make sure our sleep's on point? Can we make sure our stress is minimized? Can we make sure we're getting training in, right? Because what ends up happening here is people look at this and they're like, well, I'm gonna become adherent when I start my fat loss phase. Bullshit. No, you're not. If you can't handle this when you have more food and when your stress is down, you're not gonna be able to handle this shit when you're more irritable, you're hungry, and your energy is low, right? So you have to implement the habits before you go into the fat loss phase, and this is what a reverse can really, really do for you. So hopefully this breaks it down for you guys and you get a really good idea of how to tackle it. But if you do have any more questions or, by any chance, you want to dive into it a little bit deeper with me and make sure we can get something structured with you, I'm always more than open to do that. Just shoot me a message and we can dive into it together. Not committing to anything. I just want to help you guys out. I want to make sure you guys are getting good results and you guys understand what the fuck you're doing, because ultimately, when you understand what you're doing and why you're actually doing it, you become more adherent to the program itself. And that's ultimately what we're here for. We're here to educate and we're here to help you guys. So again, I hope you guys take a ton of value from this. This will be on YouTube as well. If you guys don't follow our YouTube, make sure you do. Drop tons of shit on there. Training, nutrition, all the protocols, all the freebies, all that's on there. So don't miss out. Tons of free game.